team for District 220. She then moved to the Southwest for a 14-month period and got many insights into new ways to do things and was her club secretary. She then moved to Northeast Iowa and has become involved in her local club and District 5970. She is currently the district's new club champion and the co-chair of the district's environmental committee, as well as the co-lead for the Environmental and Sustainability Rotary Action Group's Operation Pollination. Tina is also a passionate gardener, having totally redone the landscaping in her last 4 homes. She's an Iowa Master Gardener and has combined passions by obtaining Rotary grants to start 3 community gardens. So Tina is with us today because Sue Hunt has introduced her to us, and we're interested to find out further about the Operation Pollination as a potential club service project, particularly as it actually is coming into spring in Australia as opposed to you guys over in the US. Thank you, Tina.
Great. Well, it's super exciting. This club just sounds so cool and unique. I'm just happy to be here and would love to be invited back just to come to some of your meetings. But tonight, what I'm going to do is talk to you about a potential project that certainly you don't have to be part of a geographic club to do. But you could also turn around and tap whatever geographic club you are near. You could tap them on the shoulder about this project, but you can also totally do it on your own with other partners in your community. So that's what's kind of nice about this. And I think the availability for e-clubs is, I think, intriguing for this subject. So I'm going to hopefully share my screen. And I will say occasionally I have trouble with my bandwidth where it will not progress correctly on PowerPoint, and if that happens, I'll go back to a less professional, but it'll still work kind of way to do the PowerPoint. But hopefully this will work. I told my husband, no, stay off the internet for a bit. So what I'm going to do tonight is talk to you about Operation Pollination, which is a Rotary initiative. It was started by a past district governor and a current district governor in a district that spans the Mississippi. So part of Minnesota and part of Wisconsin. Oh, yay, it worked. So probably most of you, and I want to emphasize, because this is a very impressive international club, that pollinator loss, a lot of people think that pollinators is a North America or an Eastern North America issue, but it's actually a global issue. And, a lot of people think about monarchs and, the migration they make. And certainly we have some clubs that are very interested in monarchs. But there are also pollinator issues in Scotland. And as I learned recently, there's a butterfly very similar to the monarch in India that has similar issues. And so pollinators in general are, they're a global issue. And definitely for what we eat and what we rely on from plants, pollinators play a super important role. And this summer, I really made it a goal in my garden, really just to sit and watch what came to, because everyone thinks honeybees, and honeybees are absolutely, essential, but they are not native to North America. And there's a lot of other native things here in North America that pollinate plants. And what I was really noticing this summer are this amazing family of bees, which are called the sweat bees. And you think, oh, those are the ones that I accidentally swat and get kind of a mild sting from. But they are beautiful bees. And there are there's one in the Midwest that's called the pure golden green bee. And it's like, oh my God, what a cool name. And they look like little pins that someone made, and they're pollinators. But So when I'm in my talk tonight, when I talk about pollinators, I'm not just talking about the pretty butterflies. I'm not just talking about monarchs. And absolutely, I would say my whole talk can be translated into any country that you may have in mind. So I'm going to give a plug right off the bat that this club is based in Ohio in District 6600. And we would love you to spread the word to your current district governor, Mary, about considering signing a Operation Pollination resolution. And it's just a piece of paper, but that's how we track progress. And then once the district has signed the resolution, then we usually start spreading talks all around the district. And myself and another person, Chris Stein, have given talks to probably 75 clubs around the country so far since we started in about December of last year. And we are now moving into Scotland, England, Mexico. So we're branching out. But how we kind of track this is at the district level. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do these projects and these ideas until your district signs a resolution. It's just nice at the district level to have that. And I love this picture. This was just a couple of weeks ago. This is District Governor Karen Herbert in District 6250, which is Western Wisconsin, which is probably all in a state of mourning today. But this is her, and I love this, out in her patio with pollinators behind her, signing her district's Operation Pollination pollinator resolution. So districts have signed, no surprise really that the two, Chicago's one district and then the home district, they were the first two to jump on board and say, yeah, we really want to have our clubs think about doing something about pollinators. And again, there's no penalty, there's no, this is a warm, fuzzy, no pun intended agreement. But you can see for now, we've really concentrated mainly in the Midwest, although we are starting to branch out into Michigan and New England. So we're getting there. And I would love to have District 6600 be the first Ohio district. So what is Operation Pollination? So if those of you that still have your Rotary magazines stacked up, if you look almost pretty much at the centerfold of last October's, so October 2020 in the Rotary magazine, it talked about this idea of Operation Pollination, an article called The Butterfly Effect. And you can see here in a page, this was the district governor who kicked off this idea. Her idea was specifically to get Rotarians to think about the monarch butterfly migration corridor. And again, because her district straddles the Mississippi, it was really thinking about the role that clubs could play along the Mississippi down to Mexico and then back up to where she is. Now, since then, Operation Pollination then got adopted by this, and I'm pointing down here to these initials SRAG, which is a Rotary Action Group of Rotary, which is a group of Rotarians globally that come together around a subject, and that subject is sustainability and the environment. And SRAG officially adopted Operation Pollination as a project area. And once it was adopted by SRAG, it really became then a global idea for pollinators everywhere, not just the monarch, not just the Mississippi, but really all over. So I'm very proud, there's a freestanding website called, it's pretty easy, operationpollination.net. And I think one of the ways that Sue may have first heard about us is the Paths to Pollinators Rotary Network Facebook page, which, yes, it's a little bit of a mouthful. I actually am the administrator for that. And the purpose of that Facebook page is really to give Rotarians ideas of partners that can help them do pollinator projects. And as we mature and mature, it's really to highlight awesome projects that Rotarians have done in this theme. So it's really meant to be a network, and actually it's already starting to work. There was a post I did a couple days ago of a fairly modest pollinator garden that a club in Illinois did, but they have an awesome sign with it. And a whole bunch of Rotarians that saw the post are like, hey, can I get a mock-up of that sign? Or where did you get that sign? Or wow, did your club make that sign? So that's exactly what that Facebook page is about. It's about sharing resources and how did you do this? Where did you get that? So, for this club, I do realize, you are scattered all over the place. You may decide as an individual, or you may decide to partner with a garden group, a civic organization in your community, or you may indeed, if you want to turn and tap your geographically local Rotary Club on the shoulder, hey, I'm happy to give that club a talk too. So please take my contact information at the end. But the biggest question is always where? Where can you put a pollinator project? And often I encourage, when I'm talking to a club, for them to do a scavenger hunt type of exercise where they divide into teams and they go around their community or their town and they look at potential sites. And there's really barely any place that's too small for a pollinator garden. I mean, it can be in front of a library, it can be a strip at a cemetery. Churches, in my opinion, are ripe for pollinator gardens because a lot of churches just have this big grass area that just sits there for pretty much 4 or 5 days of the week with nobody doing anything on it. And it's like, wow, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a pollinator project? And again, talk about natural partners. Hey, there's people that are members of that church that probably you could get excited. Obviously, one of the things that is quite popular for pollinator projects is if your town or city has some kind of entrance sign like welcome to whatever. And actually this one here that says Decorah, this was my project this summer. And at the end I'll have, so this used to be all just like mugu pines and gravel, and it got totally redone in June into pollinator plants. But I do have some lessons learned from it because it wasn't quite as joyful as I thought it was going to be as a project. So I'm also going to inspire you, this club may say, let's all just as members look in our own yards, in our own different plant zones and get inspired. Now, obviously, I'm not expecting, and there's no expectation within Operation Pollination that everyone go home and say, honey, I'm going to get rid of the total lawn and we're going to do this, because obviously this is, a big undertaking. This is cool. There's no lawn to be seen. They took the whole lawn out. They made this amazing garden. But even if you do a tiny patch, so here's another example where, this landowner's been carving away at their lawn over time. So there still is lawn here and here, but they're making these little beds, slowly, sneakily getting rid of the lawn. This is just a simple old suburban backyard that a Rotarian took. And I love this picture. This was a very dry summer in the Midwest. So this is a picture from Iowa where, their neighbor's backyard literally does look like a desert pretty much. I mean, the grass is dried up. And here's this lovely pollinator garden in this Rotarian's backyard. And again, they just challenged themselves to kind of put the hose down and draw a line and make this little pollinator garden. So the main thing that I want you all to walk away with is that there is a ton of very enthusiastic partners online that can give you all kinds of information. Whether you want to work with a partner, work with an existing club, or just go it on your own. So the Xerxes Society, which is all about insects, they have a great checklist of if you want to do kind of an inventory around your town, you can actually even almost, it's like playing a game where you can score different sites about, what the site has. what orientation is it facing? Does it have a water source? All those type of things. Also, there are amazing guides where, so this is Pollinator Partnership, which is a great North America guide. So you can put in your zip code and it will come up with regionally appropriate plants for you to plant that are native pollinators. Again, Xerxes Society also has pollinator-friendly native plant lists. So there's a lot of resources online. One of the things that we always tell people to watch out for is that if you just go to the big box store and buy plants there, it's rather ironic, but a lot of even the pollinator plants have been treated with neonicotine, which is a insecticide to ward off caterpillars from eating them. And it's rather ironic that, why would you ever spray a pollinator? And if you think about pollinators, it's rather ironic because like we grow milkweed so it'll be eaten up. Because that's what we want to grow milkweed so that we attract monarch caterpillars to eat all the leaves off it, which is, if you're a gardener, it's like, wait, okay, that's a really weird goal, but that's what we want for that plant. So you want to make sure that plants that you buy are not treated. And so we just remind people about that. The second step, whether big or small, is your site prep. And I wanted to show this because this is such a, for one little space, this is such an interesting variety of what they did. They did kind of river rock up here. They terraced with little wood boards this, and then they got fancy and did the landscaping stone here. Clearly this was a hill. You can see they did the site prep with, the main thing you want to do is kill the grass. And it's way easier to smother it or do something so you don't have to dig it up, because that's a real pain. So if you can put plywood down, cardboard, keep it from blowing away, that's really the hardest work, frankly, is getting that site ready. But what I tell people, it's a great fall project to site prep, to think about the spring of next year. And sorry, at least here in North America. So this was a rotary project. You notice it's suspiciously going to be shaped like the rotary. And what this club did is they had all their members bring cardboard. Now, whoops, come back. Now, obviously, they just didn't leave this for the winter because the neighbors would have been very unhappy if all this cardboard blew all over the place. They did weigh the cardboard down. And often what you can do is actually even put soil, and you can see here, if you look really carefully, they actually brought soil in and put on top of the cardboard. And that's called the lasagna method, where you layer usually cardboard and newspaper with soil. Then you just walk away for a while and let it kill the grass, and then you come back in a couple of months. And again, this is why this is a great fall project for us in North America. Put this stuff all down, get the soil down, then hey, let's come back in April or May and we'll have a great site with no grass. So site prep is definitely something to think about. I love this example. This is called what this was created. This was in a long linear patch. So maybe you have a street boulevard, maybe you have a company that has some kind of ownership along a road that, again, is a long linear piece of property. But here's an inspiration. This cost very little to put in. So these are zinnias, which are actually great butterfly pollinators, and actually hummingbirds surprisingly come to zinnias as well. So this was just a long strip that they put down, killed the grass, and then every year the club decides on the mix of zinnias and the colors that they're going to use. And then they put this zinnia strip in as what they call a butterfly landing strip, which is kind of a really cool idea. So this is an example on the right of a rain garden, and I could give a whole talk just on rain gardens. So rain gardens are usually meant to be a catchment for rainwater. So we have this hard surface parking lot here. The idea is the water runs off, it runs into this rain garden where there may be standing water for a little bit, but it's not a pond. It's meant to catch the water and seep it in before it runs out onto the street. And there's often pollinator projects that can be combined with a rain garden. Over here, this poor soul, this poor Rotarian got the short end of the stick. So this club decided that they indeed wanted to keep their nice grass in the place that they were doing a project. So you can actually rent these type of labor-intensive devices where you kick them. And I actually think there must be motorized ones as well, where it's basically shearing off the sod. You can roll it up. You could give it away to a Rotarian, you know, whoever would like some nice sod. But it's definitely no joke labor intensive. But if you really want to keep the grass, there's actually ways that you can keep the grass. So at this point, you probably heard in my introduction, I'm going to give a big plug out to Master Gardeners. There are Master Gardeners in every state. And I know there are similar organizations in other countries. Master Gardeners are trained volunteers. And if you approached your local Master Gardeners with an idea for a project, that's really what they're all about. Once you become a Master Gardener, you kind of almost are waiting for the community or an individual to come to your group with an idea. So Master Gardeners can help design a project. They can help you figure out local plants. Probably one of the most important things, they can usually help you figure out where to source plants locally and i.e. cheaply. I have an example here in Iowa where for a pollinator project, all for what a club wanted to do for a new little park. They wanted to put a pollinator project in, and all the Master Gardeners said, okay, what are the plants you want? You know, we listed out about 6 native pollinators. They all said, hey, Mary's got some of that, and Lou's got some of that, and Bernie's got some of that. We'll just do splits off our gardens, and you know, we'll put a call out to the community. We'll run the ad in the paper. We'll do it all. You know, we'll organize the plant drop for the plants. So that's really what Master Gardeners do. And definitely, you know, look at your county extension, Google for your county, whatever county you're in, and then put Master Gardener in, and I bet you will find some resources. And again, they're free. You don't have to pay them. And I know in my Master Gardener group, an example of a local project, the recycling company in town asked us to re-landscape the front of their building. So again, as volunteers, we went in, we dug out all their weedy, kind of yucky landscaping. We put down new weed mat, we got mulch, and we got locally appropriate plants put in place. And we even watered for a while. So it was like, you know, they got all this new landscaping for free by the Master Gardeners. So I think you get it, but definitely a great free resource of people that can, and especially because a lot of you would be individuals with an idea. You don't have the 200 member club. This is where Master Gardeners could really help you think about partners you could work with in your local community. This last picture for sourcing plants is just a this is a reminder to think out of the box for sourcing. So I had a couple of clubs in Michigan that sourced plants from a prison. And there was a prison in the Upper Peninsula that has a whole classroom, hands-on of horticulture and landscaping that they teach prisoners as career development. And the prison grows, not only you can see vegetables, but they actually grow a whole lot of native plants that they then sell as a moneymaker to further their program and education within the prison. So again, you may not think of prisons, and again, this isn't going to be applicable everywhere, but it's a great just little heads up of like, hey, you'll be surprised if you start looking for native plants. And again, here in North America, certainly springtime, there are usually native plant sales like crazy in most counties. And you just have to even Google your county and native plant sale. Usually March, April, May, depending on where you are, it's just big time for native plant sales. So the most important thing, and again, whether you're doing this individually, whether you're doing this with a partner group, whether you're doing this with another Rotary club, and this is true obviously for any Rotary project. And frankly, this is where I think I really admire the Guatemalan Literacy Project, because they figured this out. They figured out a long-term plan. And obviously, when you're dealing with plants and a garden, and especially if you have a garden that is public facing, like that sign that I showed you for my town, or in front of the library, and you plunk a sign down that says, this was a Rotary project or whatever, you sure don't want it to end up looking like this. You want to have a plan of, who are the partners? Will they be able to have a weed and feed every month during the summer, where maybe you get together and weed whatever, and then have some beers, or you can make it fun, but you definitely need to think long term how you're going to take care of whatever it is you planted. We always say everyone's a happy planter and a happy gardener in June, but come August, everyone's not so happy. School gardens, there's often the real desire to work with a school. You got to think about who's taking care of that during spring or summer break. Is it up to the Rotarians at that part? Is it up to you to do that all summer? So my big lesson learned for that big sign that I showed you is that it turns out, after it was all planted and then I volunteered to take care of it, that there was no water source for that big sign. And it turned out that our June here was incredibly hot and dry. We were in the 90s for a long stretch. It was very dry. And I ended up having to get this truck from our Parks and Rec, going to the fire department, filling this tank, and then very carefully driving around to the sign, and then using a hose to hand water all of these plants. And it usually took about an hour and a half every time I watered. And I was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I look to see if there was a spigot or something before I volunteered to do this? Because it was very time consuming and just way more of a project than I had originally envisioned. So again, as you start a project, thinking about all those little, like, how will it be watered? Is there a spigot on the side of the library building? Oh yeah, there is. Okay, I can just fill up a watering can right there and quickly water my little plot. Whatever it is, that long-term plan is really important. So besides gardens, there are a number of clubs that have decided they're not quite ready to do a project, but they would love to add to an existing pollinator garden. So some clubs have funded things like this interesting chair, which you sit there, and this is a cool butterfly chair. Other clubs, there was a person that developed, and actually, if you look at this, this is a wood wings, and this template is really not that hard to make. This was a wood template that a club traced out. And then they actually had the local high school kids paint correctly, anatomically correct butterfly wings on this. And they use this as a selfie station at a pollinator garden, which I think is a really cool idea. So the idea is, obviously, you stand in front of this, you take a picture of yourself with the wings. And these are, this is a monarch, this is a swallowtail. This is just a cool idea. And again, the Rotary Club didn't have that much to do. And this could easily even be done by an individual of cutting out the wing template, getting someone to paint it and putting it up. So real quickly, this is a project that was done this year. And it shows all the right ways that this club went about it. So this is a club in Illinois. They had a member that owned a printing shop that donated part of their property to be their garden. They partnered with a local land conservancy of McHenry County that figured out all their native plants for them and got the plants for them. And then they did go to a big box store, but they went to a big box store to get tools. And they found that the local big box store was willing to donate a bunch of tools for them to use to upkeep this garden. And I believe they eventually, they even put a little shed on like the backyard of this printing company where they keep all their tools, and they regularly go and have work days for this pollinator garden. So again, this is a great example. They found a piece of property, through their Rotary network. They got somebody else to figure out the plants and get them for them for free, and they're even able to get tools. This is an example from the Spearfish Rotary in South Dakota. Again, you notice that a common theme of pollinator projects, but it certainly doesn't have to be, is rotary shapes. They combined this pollinator idea with a peace garden, and they actually contacted the Rotary Action Group that is the Peace Rotary Action Group, and they got this cool peace pole donated that's in the center of their peace pollinator garden. One thing that I often tell clubs, and again, this is a little more applicable for a club, but often, if you're going to be out doing a project, I love to remind Rotarians that, get a sign, wear a shirt, do something that makes it obvious that you're a Rotarian doing a cool project. And again, you could be a single Rotarian doing a project, but I love that, this is a sign that this club just, it's just almost like a real estate, it's like an election sign. You just pull it up whenever they're doing a project, they plunk it down in front of whatever they're doing, whether it's a car wash or a pollinator garden. But again, people walking by go, God, what's going on? Who are those people doing that? It's like, hey, there's Rotarians at work. So I know this is being recorded, and so you will have these resources on this recording. These are just some of the resources that I mentioned earlier. Again, there are there's so many, it's almost overwhelming how many partners and how much information online there is for creating pollinator habitat and creating and finding the correct plants for your area, how to plant them, how to take care of them. There's just tons and tons of resources. So that is all I have. I would definitely welcome any questions. And this is how you get a hold of me, dgtina2017 at Yahoo. And then please do check out our Facebook page. That's the Paths to Pollinators Rotary Network. And right now, actually, I've been posting a lot. We have a lot of projects kind of coming in. And we do occasionally on the Facebook group have even Zoom, like lunchtime. Usually it's lunchtime for Midwest to Eastern United States, but we often will have a speaker or a panel discussion. And I actually hope this fall to have a panel discussion that we would put up as an event on this Facebook of lessons learned from some pollinator projects that took place this year. So thank you very
so
much for
Tina.
listening. Yep.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tina. Does anybody have questions of Tina?
Hi, Tina. My name is Julie. Shout out to Iowa. I am from Waterloo.
Oh, great.
So awesome. And I just I'm on a board here in Northwest Ohio for Camp Courageous. I don't know if you've heard of it. And we actually have a partnership with the local metro parks, and we have a facility out in Oak Openings. So my mind is like kind of blowing up here with ideas for a pollinator garden. And, if this club is interested in supporting that, I would certainly love to take it forward to my camp, and we might even be able to get the metro parks to support helping maintaining it if we set it up. So we have plenty of land to do something like that. So let me know, folks, if you guys are interested in me digging further, but it's exciting. And my yard is available if anybody would love to come and I don't have a green thumb, so.
Tina, our Rotary District and our club has a project in Mexico.
Hmm.
And that project happens to be in the area where monarch butterflies go and collect in those trees.
Wow.
And one on this call would be able to put you in touch with district people down there, and that's Eloisa Robledo. Eloisa, you may want to say something about that.
There are so many places and there are beautiful areas where we could start looking to see where this could be a possibility. I would be delighted to participate and get other clubs involved. And of course, it would add so much to the projects that we foresee in the future through the reforestation projects. And also, this would be excellent. Yes.
Yeah,
And-
there's a number of Rotary projects, and actually there's a Rotarian in the Baltimore, Maryland area who heads up the Monarch Sister Schools program, which actually links schools in North America to schools down in the Oyamel forest area in central Mexico. And just like your member just said, there's a real wonderful link that really, school kids can really grasp that, the third grade class in Ohio, in Toledo, making monarch habitat, it's definitely related to and linked to the third grade class in Mexico that is growing oyamel, which is the fir tree that it's the only tree that the monarchs are on for the winter. And so there's a whole group of schools down in that forest growing in nurseries, little oyamel trees, and then they plant them out as a class project. But then to have Zoom links between those classes where the children, there's a direct link of what, they're helping the same species in this long migration corridor. It's a really exciting, and certainly pollinators, especially monarchs, it's very hard to argue that it's not just an amazingly cool internationally linked project that links actually Mexico, the United States, and Canada together in a important habitat, and again, people making a difference in Canada for monarch habitat play a role then of, getting monarchs healthy and getting them headed to the Oyamel forest in Mexico. So yeah, there's all kinds of projects and ideas that you can do that are very much cross-cultural with the monarch.
The questions, we have the monarch butterflies here, but they were introduced to us in Australia, and their migration is actually from the top of Queensland to the bottom of Queensland, so our most northern state. They actually don't, we do have them down the bottom, but their migration pattern tends to be up the top part of our country. But yeah, they're introduced.
Interesting. Well, there's a small population of monarchs that they're actually doing pretty bad, that are a Western population, and they overwinter mainly in introduced eucalyptus along the California shoreline. And they really think that the eucalyptus plays a major role. It's a good thermal cover for them. So it's really funny that that you've got the introduced butterfly, we've got your introduced tree, but it plays an important role for the monarchs in California.
And that would make sense, because in northern Queensland, there's the eucalyptus out there, it's the rainforest, but where they're coming back down to do their overwinter is where the eucalyptus starts to appear in Australia. So that would make sense. There you go. Well, thank you, Tina. Now there is another item for our meeting today. So I was to say that was great to hear